Welcome to NFL Nexus. Look, everything changed for the Indianapolis Colts in literally a matter of seconds. I mean, we're talking about a season that genuinely felt destined for greatness just completely shattered, leaving behind this trail of what-ifs, a locker room that was absolutely stunned, and a franchise desperately searching for answers. Honestly, the silence in that facility after Week 18, it was deafening. You know as well as I do, the window for Super Bowl in the National Football League doesn't just stay open, it slams shut the absolute second you hesitate. We've seen teams rebuild, right? We've seen teams reload. But what we are witnessing in Indianapolis right now, it's something entirely different. It is a high-stakes, all-in gamble where the margin for error is exactly zero. General Manager Chris Ballard and head coach Shane Steichen are operating right now with their jobs completely on the line. They know for a fact that another collapse is going to lead to a total front office overhaul. I'm your host, and in this explainer, we are breaking down the exact anatomy of this roster. We're getting into the microscopic salary cap details, the massive voids created on the perimeter, and oh yeah, the blockbuster rumor that could literally shift the tectonic plates of the entire AFC. So let's dive into this, because the question isn't just about who is on the field anymore. The real question is it enough? Close your eyes for a second and just think back to the early days of 2025. The Colts were the undisputed kings of the gridiron. An incredible 8-2 start, they were absolutely decimating defenses, putting up league-best numbers and looking virtually unstoppable. And then the wheels completely fell off. And it wasn't just a minor regression, it was a total structural failure. Think back to those fateful weeks in November and December. You had defensive breakdowns late in the fourth quarter. You had those incredibly costly turnovers in the red zone. Opposing defensive coordinators basically figured out the exact weak points in their protection schemes, and they forced catastrophic mistakes under pressure. I mean, this team slipped from a commanding number 1 seed to fighting for their lives for a wildcard berth to ultimately watching the playoffs from their couches. Brutal. It was a collapse that forced a massive, incredibly painful reevaluation inside that front office. Because when you build an elite roster and watch it derail that spectacularly, minor tweaks are no longer an option. You don't just patch the holes. You tear down the entire foundation and you reinforce it with titanium. And that is exactly the mandate Ballard and Steichen have operated under heading into this season. But amidst all the rubble of that 8-2 collapse, what is the final piece of the puzzle? What is that singular defining acquisition that flips a tragic collapse into a legitimate championship run? Well, to understand the cure, we first got to examine the exact granular state of the patient. Let's look at Part 1, a new era in Indy, and the 2026 reality. Okay, let's get one thing straight. We are no longer talking about a team that's hoping to develop. We are looking at a sweeping, wildly aggressive era of Colts football. The patience of the past, it's gone, replaced by this fierce, intense urgency to win right now. This front office is feeling the heat, and they're constructing a roster not for tomorrow, but for today. The stakes have absolutely never been higher. Just look at the foundational pieces of this 53-man projection. At quarterback, Daniel Jones. Yeah, the Colts decisively handed the keys to Jones for the foreseeable future, and to do that, they had to execute some extreme financial gymnastics just to absorb his cap hit. This meant stashing Anthony Richardson, who is now slated to play out his rookie contract as a backup, because the front office totally failed to find a trade market that matched their valuation, forcing them to eat massive dead cap in the process. Besides Jones, you've got Jonathan Taylor. Steichen's offensive scheme heavily relies on Taylor's outside zone capabilities. He is the undisputed engine of this ground game, the guy forcing defenses to stack the box. Now, flip over to the defense. The interior is anchored by DeForest Buckner, returning at age 32 alongside Grover Stewart. But Buckner brings some severe medical red flags. There are lingering questions after that serious C4, C5 vertebrae neck injury caused him to legitimately second-guess his entire football future last year. But honestly, the true jaw-dropper here? The secondary. The Colts didn't just tweak their defense, they completely mortgaged their future. They traded away their 2026 and 2027 first-round picks to acquire superstar cornerback Sauce Gardner. I mean, wow, that is a massive schematic shift. Defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo wants to run aggressive cover one press man schemes, and you just cannot execute that without a true island cornerback who erases receivers without safety help. Teaming a healthy Sauce Gardner with Charvarius Ward Sr. gives Anarumo arguably the deepest, most lethal cornerback room in the entire league. This is a team that has literally pushed every single chip into the center of the table. But in making all these massive, seismic shifts, they created a gaping, undeniable hole on the exact opposite side of the ball. Just look at the sheer contrast between last year and today. On one hand, you have the 2025 receiver room. It was heavily reliant on the steady, physical presence of Michael Pittman Jr. He was the top wideout, a total target hog for the last 5 seasons. Pittman was the chain mover. He was that 130-target security blanket who always beat zone coverage by finding the soft spots on digs, curls, and those intermediate crossers. Now, look at the 2026 reality. Pittman is gone, traded away to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in his place, Alec Pierce has been handed a massive offseason payday and the terrifying mantle of WR1. Now, don't get me wrong, Pierce is a phenomenal vertical threat. He is a true 9-route specialist who completely dictates deep safety positioning. But his route tree is totally different from Pittman's. Pierce has historically struggled with high-volume, high-traffic intermediate catches. Not to mention, there are lingering health questions about his readiness to take on 100-plus targets. Beyond Pierce, they're planning to use Josh Downs heavily from the slot, and then, man, it is a terrifyingly thin committee. They're staring down a very real scenario where their WR3 or WR4 could be Deion Burks, a rookie they drafted in the 7th round. The departure of Pittman didn't just remove targets, it ripped out the structural integrity of this passing game. It removed that physical, in-breaking route runner that this specific offensive scheme desperately needs to keep linebackers honest. Let's just let this quote from Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox sink in for a second. They didn't draft a receiver before taking Deion Burks in round 7 and should look to add a veteran before camp. Think about the subtext there. Think about the gravity of that statement. You've got an all-in roster. You have Daniel Jones, who you're trusting to lead a playoff charge against the absolute gauntlet that is the AFC. You have Sauce Gardner anchoring a championship-caliber defense, and yet you are relying on a 7th-round rookie to replace the production of a franchise staple. The historical bust rate for 7th-round wide receivers thrust into starting roles is astronomically high. It places an unbelievable amount of psychological and physical pressure on young Deion Burks to produce immediately. Imagine a Day 3 rookie having to line up against elite NFL slot corners like Trent McDuffie or Kenny Moore in Week 1. The physical jam at the line of scrimmage, the complex side adjustments required in Steichen's offense, it's pressure that could easily break a late-round pick before his career even really begins. The Colts desperately need a proven commodity so Burks can develop at a normal, healthy pace. They need someone who demands double teams. They need a true, undeniable alpha out there on the perimeter. Which brings us to the glaring receiver void and the potential for a blockbuster solution.
The Colts front office absolutely knows you cannot enter a make-or-break season with a glaring weakness on the perimeter. Sure, the scrap pile of free agency has some interesting names, veterans looking for one final ride. But Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are reportedly being urged to look way higher than that, to take an aggressive swing that wouldn't just patch the hole, but would instantly elevate this wide receiver room to a level possibly even better than when Pittman was here. And that swing? Well, it's tied to $96 million. That staggering number represents the massive 3-year contract belonging to Philadelphia Eagles All-Pro receiver A.J. Brown, which runs all the way through the 2029 season. Now, Brown's relationship with the Eagles has reportedly grown pretty shaky. We're talking subtle locker room botchers, media silence, and those visible sideline frustrations that have suddenly opened the door for a trade that previously seemed completely unthinkable. His name has been heavily floated as the ultimate needle mover for Indianapolis. But we gotta be real and look at the exact math here. A $32 million average annual value is a terrifying financial commitment. It's the kind of contract that dictates literally every other move a franchise makes. Absorbing that hit means forcing the rest of your roster to survive on veteran minimums. It severely restricts future extensions for foundational pieces like left tackle Bernard Ryman, and it massively complicates the cash flow required to keep Jonathan Taylor happy. But when you're chasing a Super Bowl, when you're trying to surgically erase the ghost of an 8-2 collapse, you don't hunt for bargains, you hunt for game changers.
And A.J. Brown is the absolute definition of a game changer. Look at last season alone. Amidst whatever internal turbulence and offensive stagnation was going on in Philly, Brown still hauled in 78 receptions for 1,003 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. But honestly, it's not just the box score. It is exactly how he achieves those numbers. A.J. Brown is a yards-after-catch monster. He takes a routine 5-yard slant route and turns it into a devastating 40-yard gain. Over his entire 105-game career, he has secured 524 catches for over 8,000 yards and 56 touchdowns. Get this, since his rookie year, he has literally never caught fewer than 52 passes or recorded less than 869 receiving yards in a single season. That is wild consistency. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time second-team All-Pro. He uses that 226-pound frame to just physically bully cornerbacks off the line of scrimmage, boxing them out at the catch point like a power forward in the paint. He is the quintessential X receiver who effortlessly defeats press man coverage. If you put A.J. Brown on the boundary, the defense has to react. The strong safety can't just creep up into the box anymore. He has to rotate over the top to help the corner, which means there are only 7 defenders left in the box to try and tackle Jonathan Taylor. He completely warps the geometry of a football field. But the sheer brilliance of this potential trade isn't just about acquiring a wildly talented player. It's about the undeniable, explosive chemistry of the tactical fit. Steichen's system is literally built for the deep strike. Shane Steichen has coordinated offenses to be among the league's elite, working absolute magic with Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and now Daniel Jones. And crucially, Steichen already has a deep, proven history of excelling with A.J. Brown from their time together in Philadelphia. There is zero learning curve here. Brown already speaks the complex language of this playbook. Plus, look at the precise quarterback mechanics at play. If you break down Daniel Jones's passing spray chart, he sometimes struggles throwing over the deep middle of the field into layered zone coverages. But where does he thrive? He thrives throwing deep, outside the numbers. He loves to live on the boundary. Now factor in a specific play call, like the dagger concept, right? Where a deep seam route clears out the middle of the field, and a deep dig route comes right underneath it. A.J. Brown runs that dig route better than almost anyone in the NFL. The Colts already have one of the best vertical stretch players in the league in Alec Pierce. Just imagine pairing Pierce's vertical threat running the clear out with A.J. Brown dominating the intermediate boundary routes, right exactly where Daniel Jones wants to throw the football. It is a terrifying proposition for opposing defensive coordinators. However, we have to look at the intense reality of the situation and the massive potential complications here. As we covered, Chris Ballard traded away the Colts' 2026 and 2027 first-round picks to get Sauce Gardner, so the draft capital cupboard is incredibly bare. How do you execute a blockbuster trade for an elite receiver in his prime without premium draft picks? Ballard might be forced to package a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 third-round pick, and a young, cost-controlled player just to get Philadelphia to even pick up the phone. Because of these intense stakes, the Colts might be forced to deeply explore alternatives if trading the farm for Brown is deemed impossible. So let's look at the free agency market. Stephon Diggs is available, hitting the market after a short stint in New England where, let's be honest, he clearly lost a step, struggling to separate from man coverage combined with some lingering locker room friction. Then there's Keenan Allen, an incredible route runner for sure, but he comes with a massive history of soft tissue hamstring injuries that are highly concerning for a player his age. And then there is Deebo Samuel, an amazing, truly dynamic weapon. But does Deebo's touch-heavy, backfield-oriented playstyle conceptually conflict with an offense that already demands 20 carries a game for Jonathan Taylor? Any of these veterans would immediately provide a reliable pass catcher opposite Pierce and take the pressure off the rookie, Deion Burks. But let's be real here. None of them shift the balance of power in the AFC quite like A.J. Brown would. So we arrive at a make-or-break decision, and the clock is ticking. This brings us to the absolute precipice. This isn't just another offseason move. This looming decision on how to fix the wide receiver room is the career-defining moment for the Indianapolis Brain Trust. They've pushed their chips in with Daniel Jones. They've mortgaged their draft future for Sauce Gardner. They've paid Alec Pierce. They've constructed an elite running game with Jonathan Taylor. Literally everything is in place except for this one glaring neon-flashing void on the outside. As the report states so perfectly, it's a make-or-break year for Steichen and Chris Ballard, but they can only operate in a space that makes sense without giving away the farm again. It's the ultimate tightrope walk. We have seen historical examples of teams giving away the farm, right? Look at Les Snead and the LA Rams with their infamous strategy of trading away all their premium picks for Matthew Stafford, Von Miller, and Jalen Ramsey. It resulted in a Super Bowl ring. But then contrast that with George Paton and the Denver Broncos, who traded a massive haul of picks and players for Russell Wilson, only to suffer a catastrophic failure that set the franchise back half a decade. That is the exact binary choice Chris Ballard is facing right now. Do you play it safe, sign a veteran like Keenan Allen or Stephon Diggs, and just pray the Steichen system elevates them? Or do you pick up the phone, mortgage whatever day 2 draft assets you have left, absorb a $96 million contract, and bring A.J. Brown to Indianapolis? The pressure is absolutely deafening. Every other team in the AFC is watching carefully. Will Ballard make the blockbuster call, or will they stand pat, hoping a 7th-round rookie can somehow defy the odds? One thing is for certain. The 2026 Indianapolis Colts are going to be one of the most fascinating, high-wire acts in recent NFL history. And you know we will be tracking this drama, these salary cap maneuvers, and the exact tactical fallout every single step of the way right here. Thanks for tuning in to NFL Nexus. If you want to understand the moves before they happen and see the exact cinematic breakdowns of how these massive rosters are built, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Like this explainer to help us out in the algorithm and jump into the comments. I really want to know what you think. Should the Colts risk the entire future of the franchise for A.J. Brown, or should they play it safe with a veteran in free agency? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you truly love this kind of deep dive, intense look at the sport, please support us directly by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on Indy, because this explosive puzzle is far from finished.